Hello gorgeous peeps, I'm Chris from TechSpert, and this week I'm going to be reviewing the Pico 4 VR headset. Now you possibly haven't even heard of Pico as it doesn't have the marketing clout of someone like Meta, but we're already up to the Pico 4. And like the Meta Quest, it is a light and compact VR headset that allows you to briefly escape the general shitness of reality for a few beautiful minutes here and there, be it as a zombie slaying badass or a boozed up brummy gangster. Now the Pico 4 costs about 400 quid here in the UK, which is basically the same as the Meta Quest 2, so is it worth that cash? So let's get an unboxing on the go, see exactly what you get stuffed in there, and then through the magical wonders of video editing, we'll dodge forward about a week and I will give you my full Pico 4 review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So inside the box you get, perhaps unsurprisingly, one Pico 4 VR headset. You get a pair of very funky controllers, and then a wee box containing all kinds of extra goodies, including a quick start guide, user guide, etc. A flappy nose pad jobby, a glasses spacer for if you wear specs. You got a pair of lanyards for those controllers so you can secure them to your wrists so they don't go flying out your grasp and smack your granny in the teeth. And last up, you got a power adapter and a Type-C to Type-C USB cable so you can charge the VR headset up. Right, so fast forward in time, I've been testing out the Pico 4 VR headset for over a week now, and I gotta say, I really like it. Let's start with the design, and the Pico 4 weighs just under 300 grams without the straps, or close to 600 grams, almost double the weight with them. And if you happen to be wondering why on earth the straps are so bloody heavy, well, it's because of the design. The Pico 4 is counterbalanced with the battery positioned at the very back end, actually attached to those straps. This just helps to distribute the weight, so it makes for a more comfortable fit. But thankfully you won't need a neck like Gaston in order to actually wear this thing. Even scrawny wee shits like myself can rock this thing on my bonds for a good couple of hours without suffering from a compressed spine. And the counterbalancing, combined with the fact that the actual headset part of the Pico 4 is considerably dinkier than the Meta Quest 2, makes it more comfortable to wear for prolonged durations, despite the fact that the Pico is actually the heavier headset. Now, adjusting the fit of the Pico 4 is dead simple. That top Velcro strap operates in the same way as the Meta Quests, while the wraparound strap can be tweaked using a twisty dial thing. That's the official term, of course, so you can get a secure fit, no worries. And that's another area where I definitely prefer the design of the Pico 4. I found that it didn't slip around anywhere near as much as the Meta Quest when I was engaged in more energetic fare like good old Les Mills boxing. And the Pico 4 also boasts motorized IPD adjustment as well, so you can get a clear view of the action no matter your face shape or size. Unfortunately, the Pico 4 is lightly colored just like the Meta Quest, so it will probably get a bit scuffed up over time. I mean, just look at the state of my Meta Quest 2 VR headset now after, what, a year and a half or so. It is absolutely scratched to buggery, although part of the reason for that is the stupid design of the controllers, which I will touch on later. As you can see here, you get a good bit of padding at the back end of the Pico 4 and also all around the area where your face resides. So certainly nice and gentle on your old mug. This facial bit has soaked up quite a bit of sweat though, as you can see from my Les Mills sessions. Ugh. Haven't suffered from any light leakage or anything when I've been rocking the Pico 4 as well. You've got this nose flappy bit to help keep the light from infiltrating these little bits here. The actual controls on the headset pretty straightforward. You've got a power button over here on the right edge, just like with the Meta Quest. Very easy to find when you've got the VR headset on. A Type-C charging port is around the other side. And then the volume rocker is actually housed up here on the top of the right part of the strap. And I've got to say that is slightly annoying because I find that every time I grip the headset to either slightly tweak the position or pull the bugger off, I always accidentally touch those volume controls, then either end up boosting the volume all the way up or just knocking it down. But hopefully that's just a me problem and you won't have that issue. But of course the big question is, do you look like a total tit when you are wearing the Pico 4? And the definitive answer is yes. Yes, you do. It's an unfortunate hazard of VR gaming, just make sure you're not doing it when your mates or your family can actually see you. Now the Pico 4 naturally supports full 6 degrees of freedom head tracking just like the Meta Quest 2, with 5 cameras integrated around that faceplate. You've got 4 fisheye efforts housed around the outside, and then the one bang there in the middle is actually an RGB cam. This means you get a proper full color view of the world when you're busy setting up boundaries or whatever, as opposed to the grainy monochrome effort you get on the Meta Quest 2. So, you know, it's not a massive advantage, but it is a nice to have. And you've also got refined controllers on the Pico 4 for interacting with the VR world. be it flapping wildly at horrible gribbly things in Exorcist Legion, or pulling off a masterful stroke in Walkabout VR Mini Golf. These are beautifully smooth, well crafted indeed, nice and comfortable to grip, and you've essentially got the same selection of buttons as the MetaQuest controllers as well, with the added bonus of a capture button over here on the right controller, which allows you to just quickly grab a still or some video footage while you're in a game. And the controllers certainly feel tough enough to put up with all kinds of punishment and survive the odd drop onto hard flooring as well, although touch wood, by some miracle I haven't managed to do that yet. These swirly bits do sort of help to protect your hands when you are waving them all about the place in case you accidentally smack the wall or a loved one. And the good news is, so far, after over a week, I've managed to not punch myself in the face a single time, whether I was doing the Les Mills boxing again or some other energetic action title. Whereas with the MetaQuest, I don't know if it's this stupid jutty out bit on the controllers or the fact that it is just a fatter headset, I do it all the time, as you can tell from all the scratches. I even really like the battery compartment here on the Pico 4 controllers. Just pull this little tab down here and then you can yank out the batteries like so, kind of like releasing a clip from a gun. It's very clean, very easy to do, and it just feels really cool. As you can see there, each controller runs off 2 AA batteries. I'm not sure how often you'll have to replace them. I'm nowhere near close to wiping them out, even after an intensive week of full-on VR action. And so far I found the tracking to be just as accurate as with the MetaQuest 2. Occasionally on Les Mills I'll miss a target, which I swear to God my hand just passed straight through. But again, that's something I experience all of the time on the MetaQuest as well, so pretty standard for this kind of headset. As for the haptic feedback, well, it's pretty good here on the Pico 4 controllers. I don't think it's quite as good as the MetaQuest, certainly in the box and the likes. Those punches don't feel like they're connecting quite as heavily, but overall, pretty decent. Now, when you actually boot up the Pico 4, what you got running here is Pico OS 5.0. As is pretty much standard for a VR headset, you've got a suitably dramatic environment for the main user interface. It's simple enough to navigate, not too different at all from the MetaQuest's interface. You got fast access to your library for all the stuff you've downloaded already, as well as the store to download more apps and games and spunk even more cash at Pico. It's all clean and colourful and very inoffensive indeed. You've got a choice of either 128 or 256 gigs of storage with the Pico 4, so that's a match for the MetaQuest, and as most VR games tend to be just a few gig, that means you should have plenty of space to download tons and tons of stuff onto there. The Pico Store sadly isn't as well stocked as the MetaQuest Store. We're talking a couple hundred apps and games on there right now, which is about half the selection you'll find on the Quest 2 VR headset. However, while key MetaQuest titles like Resident Evil 4 and Bone Lab are missing in action here, you do still get a pretty healthy selection of the classics. I'm talking the likes of Superhot VR, Red Matter, Fisherman's Tale, all that good stuff. If you don't mind that face guard getting a bit moist, well, the Pico 4 supports plenty of fitness apps like the excellent Les Mills Body Combat, which I've already banged on about quite a bit. Upcoming highlights include Peaky Blinders, A King's Ransom, which should fulfill your fantasies if you've ever seen that telly show and thought, hey, I'd really like to be one of them gangster types what drinks a lot and occasionally brains some with a pint. Just add your own alcohol and it's a pretty good simulation of a night out in Birmingham. The Pico 4 will also get Walking Dead Saints and Sinners soon, which is one of the best actiony RPG style titles on that MetaQuest 2. And you've already got support for Arizona Sunshine on there, which is well worth picking up if you like to cap zombies in the face. And if you want something a bit more sedate, there's plenty of just random videos that you can watch here on the Pico 4 as well, some of them a bit more random than others. And the good news is that the Pico 4 also supports streaming content from the likes of YouTube and Disney Plus as well. Just sign in with your account and you'll get a lovely cinema style experience. And all of this stuff plays really well thanks to the Pico 4's powerful Snapdragon XR2 chip backed by 8 gigs of RAM. So for comparison's sake again, that is the exact same chipset that the MetaQuest 2 runs and 2 extra gigs of RAM. And yet that performance has been perfectly smooth on all of the gaming that I've done, apart from like the very first day when I set up the Pico 4, I did notice some judders in that Les Mills. Hey Les Mills, are you sponsoring this video by any chance? So that had me slightly concerned, but thankfully it was just that first day judders, and then absolutely fine since then, nice and smooth, no worries. And you'll also be able to stream your Steam VR games direct to the Pico 4, but one thing worth pointing out is there's no display port on this VR headset, unlike previous versions of the Pico VR, so you will have to go wireless. Now the Pico 4's crisp 4K display boasts a 2160 by 2160 pixel resolution per eye, and that's versus the 1832 by 1920 for the MetaQuest. I didn't really notice any particular difference between the two in terms of the graphics quality, but certainly both are crisp enough to get you fully immersed in whatever you're up to. You've also got a 105-degree field of view with the Pico 4, which is slightly less restrictive than the Meta Quest 2, but the refresh rate has been scaled down to 90Hz versus 120Hz on that Meta Quest. Now I've got to say, my knackered old peepers could not tell the difference. Everything still looks silky smooth on this bad boy. Everything still looks fluid when you're moving around quite a lot, so that will help prevent motion sickness. And those built-in speakers are also as impressively crisp and capable as the Meta Quest 2. I use these almost all of the time for the audio when I was playing games, watching videos, doing whatever. They provide a really immersive 3D audio experience. Unfortunately, however, unlike that Meta Quest, there is no headphone jack on here, so if you do want to hook up some headphones, you'll have to go Bluetooth. Now the Pico 4 sports a 5300 mAh battery, as I say, housed here at the back of the headset, and that'll keep you going for around 2 to 3 hours of full-on VR action, depending on, of course, what you're actually up to. In comparison, the Meta Quest sports a paltry 3640 mAh battery, so smaller than quite a lot of modern smartphones, although you can boost that. You can actually double the size of it pretty much by using the Elite Strap accessory. And so while the Meta Quest typically delivers up to around sort of 2 hours of battery life without that Elite Strap, slap that accessory on and suddenly you've got closer to 4 hours. The Pico 4 does seem to recharge quicker than the Meta Quest, however, usually about 2 hours with the cable bunged in there will recharge it from 0 to full, although that is around 2 hours that you'll have to spend in actual reality with your actual family. So anyway, that right there, kiddies, is my full, final, frank review of the Pico 4 VR headset and how it stacks up to that Oculus Meta Quest 2. And I've got to say, in terms of the design, certainly I prefer the Pico 4. It just feels a lot more refined compared with the older Meta Quest 2. The controllers too are more nicely designed. You've got better battery life. Of course, the one big area where the Pico 4 is beaten by its rival is, of course, the library, the catalog of games and apps that is available for it right now. But Pico is catching up. It's getting a lot of those really big bollocks titles like the likes of The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. So, give it a bit of time and it'll certainly be just as hot in that area. So that's what I think of the Pico 4, as I say, available right now in the UK for around 400 quid from the likes of Amazon. But it'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, especially if you've actually had the chance to try out the Pico 4 yourself. What do you reckon? And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do plug subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.